Mr. Harris here, and welcome to a new video of Chapter 4. In this video, I'm going to start to talk about heredity. So we're also starting a new topic. This is going to be topic 4.3. So first off, what exactly is this word, heredity? So heredity is the passing on of traits from one generation to the next. Okay, let me divide this statement into a couple of shorter ones. So first off, I need you to know I need you to recall that what's the meaning of traits. So in the beginning of this chapter, I introduced this term already. So traits could be, for example, some of us are tongue rollers, while some of us are not. So that is one example of a trait. Some other traits are that, for example, you may have dimples, while some of us don't. And also, if you recall during that time, I mentioned that you are born with this. So traits are inborn. And heredity, it basically means you'll be passing on these traits from one generation to the next. So how exactly are these traits passed on? The traits over here, they're passed on through the transmission of genetic information. So as I told you, we are born with this, right? So how are we actually born with this? It must be coming from somewhere, right? So it is coming from our DNA, which has the genetic information. But how do we have our DNA in the first place? How do we have the genetic information in our DNA in the first place? And that is where our parents come in. So if you recall, I already talked about the process of fertilization in the previous few videos. The sperm and the ovum, when they meet together during the process of fertilization, the genetic information of the father and the genetic information of the mother, when they combine together, it will form the zygote. And eventually, after repeated cell divisions, the zygote will form the embryo will form the fetus, so on and so forth till we get the baby, right? The zygote over here, it has the mixture of genetic information from both parents. And that is where we get those traits. We get it from our parents. So I have another question. So how exactly does this occur? How does DNA carry our genetic information? How does it know that what traits to carry, and how's this whole process? How does it even come about? So for this, we will need to first learn about the structure of the DNA. Let's have a look. So the DNA, it consists of two strands, all right, two of them. So you can see over here, one is going like this, and the other one is passing through it. So it goes through it. Okay, they're twisted around each other. Okay, they're not going vertically down, they're not going horizontally, they're going twisted. And the name of this structure that we see in the diagram over here is called double helix. Okay, there's a specific name for this structure, it is called double helix. So when someone asks you what is the structure of DNA, you will mention that it is double helix. To give you somewhat of an idea what double helix really is, so you can consider an analogy of a twisted ladder. So just imagine there's a ladder and it's twisted. Or what I like to use, because I like to use some food analogy. So just think of those spiral pastas. I'm sorry if I'm making you feel hungry, but just imagine those spiral pastas. It looks somewhat like the structure of DNA. Okay? So if you notice that inside the spiral structure or the twisted ladder structure, there are some letters. There's G, C, T, A. What are these? Okay, first off, just like how we have a ladder, there are some steps while you gotta go right. So for example, you're down over here, you want to move up. So first you'll need to go to the first step, then you need to go to the second step, third step, fourth step, so on and so forth, right? So in each step of the ladder, or in each step of this DNA, there are some bases. Okay? Just consider, instead of steps over here, there are bases for DNA. So that's two. There's a base here, base here, base here, so on and so forth. Okay. So each letter over here is one base. So if I'm going to untwist, for example, let me move my mouse over here. Originally, it was a spiral, a twisted structure over here, right? So if I'm going to untwist it, if I'm going to open, so to say, the DNA structure, it will look somewhat like this. Okay? So I've opened it, and then let me move it over here. It looks somewhat like this. Now, let's look at the diagram. There are four kinds of bases: A, C, T, and G. Okay, there are only four letters: A, C, T, G. So, however, I won't be using the word letters anymore. I'll be using the word bases. That is the more accurate term. So, inside the structure of DNA, we have four kinds of bases, as you can see in the diagram over here. Okay, now what's so special about these bases? They need to be paired up. And this process, or what we call this, it is called base pairing. The bases, they need to be in pairs. So, for example, just like how in the classroom you're sitting with your pair, right? You're with your neighbor, maybe some of you are not. But for DNA, for bases over here, they must have a pair. They occur in pairs. So what pairs are there? The letter A, or base pair A. Base A, it will only pair up with base T. Okay, they will pair up together. And on the other hand, base C, it will only pair up with base G. So base pairing of C will only occur with G. And you may ask me, why is this the case, Mr. Harris? So simply speaking, let's have a look at diagram. Okay, look at A and T over here, or TA, however you want to mention it. AT, TA, that's fine. Notice the structure over here. The T can equally fit inside over here, but if I'm, for example, going to put G with A, if I'm going to put G with A over here, okay, let me move that way. If I'm going to put G and A over there, you will notice that they do not fit with each other. They cannot pair up. So that is why only the pairs of A and T will pair up together, because they fit equally. And on the other hand, G and C will fit equally. Okay, so that is one of the main reasons why we need to pair them in that way. So in order to help you recall what pairs with what, so I have a somewhat easy way to memorize it. So at AT, because it sounds easy, so at, and then GC, you can remember at Gold Coast. So maybe some of you live in Gold Coast, in Toon Moon area, or you can even think about the Gold Coast in Australia. That is fine. So over here, it's a quick way to help you memorize. So AT, they're based up together. So at, and in Gold Coast, GC will be paired up together. All right, so AT, paired up together, GC, paired up together. So let's wrap up. There are four kinds of bases on DNA. They are, what are the four kinds? A, T, G, and C. Okay, so at, Gold Coast. So AT, GC. The double helix structure of DNA is based on the base pairing of A with, so base pairing of A with what? So again, at Gold Coast. So very quickly, I know that A and T is together, so A with T. And then for the other ones, G and C together. So C with G. And then finally, the passing on of traits from one generation to the next is called, what is this called? Yes, it is called heredity. It is the result of the transmission of blank carried in DNA. It is the transmission of genetic information carried in DNA. Okay? So this wraps up this part. So make sure that you do not confuse the base pairs. So AT and GC together. and DNA has a double helix structure. All right, so that's the end of this video. I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.